Life really hasn't been kind to Khezu, has it? Our iconic cave-dwelling buddy here started life being given post-game status in the original Monster Hunter 1, alongside other threats like Gravios and Diablos. Hunters would have to craft a piece of Vespoid armor just to get the privilege of an audience with the beast, and in low rank it had the status of being the only way to access the rare Thunder element on your weapons. Trouble is, it wasn't too much different from later iterations, with a heroically weak matchup against Fire Element and legs that were weaker than a Live Leak Elevator, so it's no surprise really that later in the series we'd see a downgrade in the classification of the thing. Appearing in lower star quests beneath monsters such as Rathian, it would still fall to even the slightest hint of Fire Element and all around was just a pretty average danger. The time taken to hunt the thing wasn't due to a large health pool or difficult moveset, no, you'd end up wasting time because it would just start cutting about on the ceiling for half the hunt. If you combine this with being replaced in the third generation by the vastly inferior Giganox, and Khezu being the butt of one of the most tired jokes in all of Monster Hunter history, things really looked bleak for the Leech. Hey, did you hear that? It's the Khezu BGM. Do you get it? It's the Khezu BGM because there isn't any, it's silent. It's the Khezu BGM, it's the music of Khezu, do you fuck? Anyways, something had to change. Khezu needed an upgrade. Khezu needed to be a threat. We needed a Khezu that could kill. Enter Zenith Khezu, the subject of our 5th report. Another early Zenith to be introduced, this was the point where we started to see the boundaries of sensibility and reason being pushed to their breaking point. There's a lot to go over, but let's just talk about the design here for a moment. Khezu itself has a pretty unique look, refusing the scales or fur of other flying wyverns, and that nightmarish face is unlike any other beast in the archives. And yet, the Frontier team still couldn't help themselves from going as hard as they possibly could for the Zenith. The pale hide now holds visible blue veins which will pulse with electricity during any of the myriad lightning charges, and its overall physicality is stockier and large. Aside from these expected enhancements for a jazzed up monster, it's the Zenith part that really takes precedent here, the head. Engorged veins as thick as power cables line the circumference of the mouth, and between them a thin film that betrays the sheer volume of thunder energy just beneath its skin. During any discharges of electrical energy, hunters can see the movement of current around Khezu's toothy maw. Whilst it's still completely blind, this frightening face is going to clue you into how you really don't want to take this guy for a fool, as it'll only take a few moves into the fight for the real threat to be apparent. Firstly, the range. Khezu isn't winning any medals for its speed, but the Zenith takes it up a gear with the distance the attacks cover. Thunder Spit attacks now can be split into pieces like the base species in Frontier, covering a cone rather than a line, and it can now discharge pillars of lightning in a massive area around. The wide reach also extends to its movement in general. When making a leap, be it from the ceiling of a cave or a general forward jump, the landing itself will produce a giant explosion of lightning, meaning this previously easy to avoid move becomes much more of a threat. And secondly, is where this carnival ride starts to take a turn over a cliff's edge. We've seen some pretty crazy moves in our stroll through some Zenith monsters so far, and they've been kinda powerful, not to mention 2 separate blights that present their own threats. Well, here we've got a new one. Zenith Thunderblight. Possibly the most dangerous one. Regular Ice Blight uses more stamina and the Zenith version punishes you after you run out. Regular Fire Blight inflicts damage and the Zenith version reduces your ability to recover that damage. Regular Thunderblight makes you easier to be stunned after getting hit. Zenith Thunderblight stops your shitting heart. Get smacked by lightning with less than 55 lightning defense and you're inflicted with the blight. Nothing happens until the next time you take a shock whilst afflicted. If that happens, your hunter collapses to the ground and spasms, until shortly after the cardiac arrest hits and you're sent right back to camp. The only way to recover from this state is to have a teammate revive you, and it's a pretty short window, so you'd best hope that your buddies know what they're doing. It's a pretty useful skill in Frontier: competence. Needless to say, you'll want to beef up your elemental defense for this one. Z Thunderblight takes no prisoners, and you're a fool if you don't take the necessary precautions. And that's not all, however. Things just get worse, and it's here where I'm going to outline a couple behaviours and moves to be aware of from the get-go at G-Rank 200. The aforementioned lightning pillars look terrifying, but they're only really a threat when you're at medium to long range. Standing close to Khezu whenever these appear mean that you're much less likely to be hit by one of these, but you'll also have to be careful as a lot of these attacks involve Khezu shrouding itself with electricity also, so being incredibly precise with your positioning is a must. The last little thing to note before we cover the higher level adjustments is a little trick Frontier pulls on the hunters every now and again, and this is repurposing animations. Zenogre does it, Unknown Rathian does it, and now so does Zenith Khezu. The animation in question is the Rage Mode animation, where it holds its head down and sniffs around for a bit. It isn't a breather, it's a tell for an incredibly dangerous attack. Once the animation is complete, Khezu begins to shuffle forward, running down your hunter whilst covered in static. If you get hit, that's thunder damage and a knockback for you, and the attack won't stop. That means if you're caught at the start of the attack, Khezu could still be shuffling over your body, ready to catch you again. Now to avoid this move, you need to take the sniffing animation as a warning and get behind him. Once it begins to move, you'll just need to keep behind it, as the Wyvern's turning circle isn't the best. The end result is something that looks comically like a Scooby-Doo chase sequence, but it'll do the trick of keeping you out of an early grave. Fancy that, even the silliest and most innocuous of animations can turn into something real horrific, and the most threatening attacks don't have to be big old explosive AoEs. Of course, you'd want to look for a way to be rewarded for doing well against this hell, right? Well, it is a Zenith after all, so you'll get some, albeit not many rewards for breaking the face. Firstly, this little attack here just doesn't go through. It's got a pretty nice opening afterwards regardless, but when the face is broken, Khezu just flinches itself out of the blast. Looks like the poor thing can't concentrate its power as well. The second thing is that all roars get downgraded from Zenith level. Ironically, Khezu doesn't really roar all that often, but it's one less thing to worry about. Finally, the dangerous shuffle attack seems to end early if you get behind the guy. It's not much, but it's something. Now we're going to be moving up the levels of the Zenith quests now. Remember how I said it gets worse, and this Khezu came to chew face and take names? Well, here's where it makes the transition from beefed up to one of the most threatening Zenith monsters in the entire roster. At G rank 400, a single new move gets introduced. Khezu sweeps the neck fast as anything if you stood in front of it. Remember Anoru, where we got an attack that was so threatening, so dangerous that you only faced it at G rank 800? Those restrictions don't apply to Khezu. If you get hit, you'll be pinned and then immediately swallowed whole. It's yet another example of an instant one-shot that ignores all resistances and precautions. This is just an attack that tells you to not get hit. It's a pretty scary move, so you have to be prepared at all times to guard or evade if you're stuck in front of the monster just due to the sheer speed of the animation. At G rank 600, there's no new moves per se, but a new significant combo instead. Khezu will now combine two of the previously covered attacks into one big threatening combo. After any slam, whether it's the leap or falling off the ceiling, Khezu now goes instantly into the shuffle movement. This can be incredibly dangerous 1-2 if you decide to get greedy or end up hit by the slam, as you'll be open to multiple follow-ups from there. Finally, G rank 800, the big one. You're really fighting a war of attrition now, as the sheer size of its HP pool means Khezu is going to have so many more opportunities to bust out the one-shot, and no level of Hulk Potion or Premium Armor is going to make a difference. It does also get one new attack, this sort of juggle with a burst of thunder at the end after the next slam. You have to treat it kind of identically to the next sweep, in that you have to assume it's going to come out at any time. Simply dodge out of the cone that the slams cover, and you should be golden. The best way to do so is to dodge to your left. Side note, but the bow here is one of the sickest designs I've ever seen. It's very futuristic for Monster Hunter, but man, if Capcom didn't put their entire cock and balls into this. Amazing stuff. Zenith Khezu then. It's a terrifying freak of a thing, and one of the most dangerous Zenith fights of all time. We've dealt with some of the more sensible fights in comparison so far, but Khezu is just the tip of the crack-smoking iceberg. Definitely one of the cooler designs and a foe worthy of respect. Hope you will enjoy this second report from the Arctic regions. Cera out.